What's going on, everybody? Jhow here, and in this Diablo guide we're going to cover the Demon Hunter in patch 2.3. Now a lot's changed with patch 2.3, so we'll cover some of the basics as well as everything you need to know in terms of gear, skills, and some of the alternatives, as well as Kanai's cube. Now for the skills, a lot of this will look fairly familiar. With 2.3 brings a lot of new items that will make this build very effective, and we'll cover that once we get to the gear section. For the skills, you'll be using Evasive Fire with Focus, Multi-Shot with Arsenal, Vault with Tumble, Vengeance with Seethe, Preparation with Invigoration, Companion with Wolf Companion. And for your passives, Ambush, Steady Aim, Awareness, and Ballistics. Now to cover the skills, Evasive Fire is your main generator. This one will do a little bit of damage, but it's mainly going to be to get your hatred back around when you need it, because you are going to be using this in a similar fashion from what you're used to from 2.2. Now your main attack is Multi-Shot with Arsenal. This is a fire skill that is going to be doing a lot of damage. Now, most of the builds that you'll see going forward focus on the highest damage dealing rune in its overall effectiveness. Multi-Shot with Arsenal is a lot of fun and does a widespread amount of damage, so this is probably your #1 choice for the multi-shot build. There are some other variations out there that you'll be seeing very soon as the season progresses. Vault with Tumble. This is very good because when you're using the Unhallowed Essence set, you don't want to drop your discipline too much. Vault uses discipline, so being able to minimize the amount of discipline that you're using so that it regens and you're at max damage most of the time is important. Now, you could very easily roll with Rattling Roll to go with a stun ability. Now, that is an alternative. Next, Vengeance with Seethe. Now, if you were going to swap out one skill in this setup, this is probably the one that you're going to go with. Vengeance with Seethe allows you to regenerate hatred over a short period of time, which can allow you to spam multi-shot even more. Now, keep in mind that with Evasive Fire, you're going to need to use this with your Focus and Restraint. So long as you're getting one shot off every 5 seconds, you'll be able to proc your Focus and Restraint to stay at max damage. In that 5-second time frame, you can use Vengeance with Seethe to be able to use multi-shot as much as you possibly can. And we'll go over some of the ways, again, with the gear, and as well as the recap at the end to cover how you can use those best. Preparation with Invigoration is a no-brainer. Since you do more damage with more discipline, this is the rune that you want to choose. This gives you that extra damage from the bonus discipline that it's giving you. Companion with Wolf Companion. Going back to the earlier point that I made with multi-shot, most of the time you're going to go with the rune that does the most damage. If you're trying to climb those high greater rifts, then you're pretty much going to go Glass Cannon with most classes. You'll find ways to supplement your defense in other ways. Companion with Wolf Companion simply allows you to do more damage on a more consistent basis. For your passives, you have Ambush. Now, there's a couple of alternatives you can go with here. If you're using in your Kanai's cube something like the Thunder Fury to be able to proc your Cull the Weak and your Bane of the Trapped, then you would use Cull the Weak here. Statistics show that using Cull the Weak over Ambush gives you a slight edge. However, if you want to go for that pure damage, Ambush is really good. With Dead Man's Legacy from Season 3 carrying over now to Season 4 and on the regular non-season characters, you'll be able to do max damage. Ambush allows you to do extra damage above enemies above 75% health. With Dead Man's Legacy, if you have a perfect roll, it will be less than 60% health. You'll be double hitting with your multi-shot. So there's only a 15% health range there that you're not doing the extra damage. Steady Aim allows you to just stay back, fire off your multi-shot, stay at a safe distance, and then be able to do more damage with the distance between you. This couples really well with one of the gems that we're going to go over with Zai's Stone. Now, another passive that you could easily swap out is Awareness. Again, if you're going full Glass Cannon, then why even bother with awareness? You can go any other direction here. As mentioned before, you could also put Cull the Weak here if you go with the Kanai's Cube alternative. But for most players, I recommend awareness. If you're trying for higher, greater rifts, then going with something a bit more offensive minded here is the way to go. Last up, ballistics, because you are going to be shooting out extra rockets. Now, with multi-shot, you'll be able to launch these out, do the extra damage, and again, choose the one that puts out more damage overall. For the gear, you'll need the 6-piece Unhallowed Essence set. I'll go over the new items here in just a second, but let's cover the basics on items that already were existing prior to patch 2.3. The Unhallowed Essence set benefits greatly from having extra discipline. So being able to get the extra discipline on the right gear will allow you to maximize your potential going into greater rifts and all around just do more damage. For the Unhallowed Essence pieces, you'll need the boots, chest, glove, helm, pants, and shoulders. On the chest piece in the secondary, you are able to roll max discipline. So if you get the Unhallowed Essence chest piece, make sure and look for or roll onto the extra discipline. The sockets there, of course, are going to be there and going to be nice, but the extra discipline is what your main focus is. Next up is the Focus and Restraint rings. As mentioned during the skill section, being able to use a Hatred Spender and a Hatred Generator at least once every 5 seconds will keep this procced to be able to do max damage. Now, keep in mind that there is a very specific playstyle to use this when you're using Taegux. To be able to get a multi-shot off every so often to keep your Taegux stacks up is another key point to note. Now, using this so that you can use a couple multi-shots and then an evasive fire to be able to continue to move through the greater rift does take a little bit of practice if you're not familiar with it. It's been a strategy since 2.3, so you might already be familiar with it and just might go right into this on full-on beast mode. For the amulet slot, you'll now look at rolling a Hellfire. It does still take a little bit of work to get a nice one, but that extra passive can go a long way. It now has a guaranteed socket on it in patch 2.3, which makes it far more worthwhile to go out and farm for one of those. If not, some type of damage mitigating amulet that has a socket, fire skill damage, crit damage, and crit chance is very nice, or something along those lines to just maximize the damage that you can do until you get a nice Hellfire. Now let's take a look at some of the new items in patch 2.3. One of those being Hunter's Wrath, the belt, which says your primary skills attack 30% faster and deal up to 60% increased damage. Now, this isn't always the best choice. It's a nice choice, but running with a Witching Hour, a nicely rolled Witching Hour, still generally wins out. But for the most part, you can feel safe running with a Hunter's Wrath belt to be able to get that extra damage from all those evasive fire shots you'll be shooting. Another new item is the Wraps of Clarity, which are bracers. This is an incredible item to use with the setup that you're going to be using. This plays right into using your Focus and Restraint, which you'll see in the secondary. Your Hatred Generators reduce your damage taken by up to 40% for 5 seconds. This is really nice because you'll be using a Hatred Generator at least every 5 seconds to keep your Focus and Restraint procced. So using this goes twofold to be able to reduce damage as well as do more damage. So the Wraps of Clarity play right into everything that you're trying to do. Then we've got Yang's Recurve, which really makes the Unhallowed Essence set shine. This is another new item in patch 2.3. You'll see secondary, multi-shot attacks 50% faster. This is the main reason you'll be using this. And for a multi-shot build coupled with Unhallowed Essence, does a ton of damage and is why it makes it one of the best builds going forward. Now, keep in mind that you can roll max discipline in the secondary. So getting that max roll of 12 discipline is something to shoot for because this is going to increase your damage probably more than any other stat on there. Last up, we have Dead Man's Legacy. This quiver was a Season 3 only item that says multi-shot hits enemies below up to 60% health twice, which is what makes this so effective. Coupling this with the Unhallowed Essence and Yang's Recurve, you'll be able to shoot a lot of multi-shots out doing twice as much damage to those enemies below anywhere between 50 to 60% health. Also keep in mind that you can roll max discipline on your secondary in the quiver. Coupling this with the max discipline that you've put on your bow and your chest piece will mean more damage output overall, which is going to benefit you greater than most other stats that you have. For Kanai's cube, ideally you'd have a calamity in the weapon slot. This is going to benefit you by putting marked for death on everything that you're hitting. This is nice, however most people don't have a calamity. The other item that you could put here is a Thunder Fury. Believe it or not, demon hunters can use swords. So using this to be able to say, you're going to proc their slow effect from the Thunder Fury to be able to use a Bane of the Trapped and Call the Weak combo in the passive actually does a pretty decent amount of damage. It only spreads so far, so it's one of those things that you gotta weigh the outcome as far as what works best for you. It's not a bad option, but it is an option to go with. For the armor slot, this goes back to what I mentioned before. The resource cost reduction is huge. Being able to pump out shots 50% faster with Yang's Recurve, you need that resource cost reduction. The Cinder Coat plays right into that. Since you're using a fire skill with multi-shot arsenal, having the Cinder Coat automatically rolls to where it does 30% resource cost reduction and allows you to get off even more shots. So using the Cinder Coat option here is a no-brainer. Lastly, in the ring slot, the Convention of Elements. This is going to pump out a ton of damage every time it comes around to the fire skill. You'll also benefit when it gets to the cold skill for your evasive fire. Now, if you're having trouble staying alive and you're looking for a safer shot, then you can run with a Unity here and throw a Unity on your follower to be able to stay alive a little bit longer. So you have to play, am I going glass cannon or do I need a little bit more survivability? I'll leave that up to you. For the legendary gems, Zai's Stone and Taeguk are no-brainers. Zai's Stone says that the further away you are, the more damage you're going to do. Coupling that with the steady aim passive, you'll do max damage by staying at max range. Then with Taeguk, the more times you use a spender, the more stacks you get to do more damage. After level 25, you'll also be able to benefit from the armor. Now, using this on a certain playstyle allows you to go multi-shot every 3 seconds, whether there's an enemy there or not, will keep this at max stacks. So using this method when you're going through a greater rift to make sure you're shooting this every 3 seconds, no matter what, whether you're hitting a target or not, is very important to keep max stacks on Taeguk throughout the duration of a greater rift. You don't want to lose stacks of this, ideally, unless you absolutely have to. For your third legendary gem, if you decided to go with a Thunder Fury or something else that allows you to proc your Bane of the Trapped and your Call the Weak, then by all means go with Bane of the Trapped here because that will increase your damage. Bane of the Powerful is also not a bad option, and if you're playing Season 4, Bane of the Stricken is a great option. So to recap, we have 3 new items for the Demon Hunter in patch 2.3, which really make use of the Unhallowed Essence multi-shot build. Bringing everything together that we mentioned already in terms of using the method of proccing your focus and restraint, keeping that up as much as possible, and then keeping your Taeguk stack up is very important to do max damage at all times going through a greater rift. It might look a little funny shooting at nothing sometimes, but having that Taeguk at max stacks going into the next fight is very important. Also, as mentioned earlier, having max discipline rolled on all items that you can have it on with your chest, bow, and quiver to be able to get that max potential out of the damage that you do is another keynote to keep in mind. With Yang's Recurve, you'll get several multi-shots off to do a lot of damage. Using that with the Dead Man's Legacy quiver goes hand in hand as you make your way bursting down enemies. And then the Wraps of Clarity that allows you to reduce damage by using your generator, which plays hand in hand with your focus and restraint, is only going to increase your toughness and your damage throughout the entire Greater Rift. If you're really looking to push those high Greater Rifts, min-maxing during these key moments will be important to be able to have max potential to clear even the highest Greater Rifts possible with this gear. Now, you'll see a couple of variations of this build, and they're all going to be equally as effective. With Kanai's Cube, it opens up quite a few possibilities to be able to pump out tons of damage and to be able to have decent amount of survivability. You'll see different skill variations ever so slightly, as well as a few pieces of gear that might be swapped in and out. So that's it for this Demon Hunter guide in Diablo patch 2.3. Now, if you like the build or you like the video, feel free and hit that like button below because that is always appreciated. If you're looking for more Diablo content as well as other gaming content, be sure and subscribe as well. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and see what they're running in patch 2.3 and season 4. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Till next time, happy hunting. See you again.